Tesla because you're betting that they're going to take over the world.
What's going on YouTube? Taylor Prentice back here with another video. I'm with my guy Andrew.
What's up?
And today we're going to get into the meat and potatoes of plant-based stocks. So let's get into it.
What are plant-based meats?
They're meats that are derived from plants. So a lot of things are like made with cauliflower, like cauliflower wings. I feel like the first plant-based food that I had ever heard about. And then you've got like burgers and stuff that are made out of like black beans and just all kinds of different creative ways to kind of use vegetables or something plant-based to represent something that kind of already exists. For example, like wings, like I said, and burgers have become really popular, I feel like.
But let's be clear, we're not talking about the veggie burger of the 90s. When it's brands like Beyond Meat or Impossible, the burgers actually bleed and they pass taste tests a lot of the time where they're indistinguishable. It's a little bit different where they're using pea protein isolate and they're using sunflower oil and different ingredients to really make their meat more like meat, where it's not just a veggie patty that tastes like broccoli. It really is like a burger that tastes like a burger. So how much are plant-based meats worth in 2022?
Obviously, food innovation has came a long way, especially like as vegan and vegetarian diets kind of have grown, especially in the US. I feel like they've gotten a lot bigger here in recent years. Obviously, the food behind that is going to get a lot better. When you first start off with anything, it's not going to be that great, and that's kind of what happened with vegan food and vegetarian food. I think it kind of turned a lot of people off from it and just made those items seem not so tasty. And I remember like cauliflower wings, like that just doesn't make any sense to me like when I was little. And eventually I kind of veered out and tried some of these like Tattooed Chef products like the cauliflower mac and cheese, and they're actually really good and have a decent amount of protein for not having any real meat in them. So that's another big thing, is just as these foods progress and become tastier and healthier, I think we'll see more people start to adopt them. Even people like myself who aren't vegan or vegetarian, I think will kind of gravitate towards some of these companies because I feel like they're just going more in depth into kind of building out products that have a lot of good nutrients and are still tasty and aren't harmful to the ecosystem. They're kind of more sustainable products, or at least you like to think so.
Right, and that's really where the growth comes from, because you can only innovate a slaughterhouse so much, but with this technology, eventually it will be healthier, it will be cheaper, it'll be easier to make, it'll taste better, and all that, so that there's so much potential to grow because it is a technology. And right now it's valued at $6 billion, the whole plant-based market, but it's expected to grow by like 20% every year until the 30s. So it has potential to be almost $1 trillion industry. And if it does become cheaper, healthier, tastier, I mean, there's a good chance that in the future, your kids' kids are gonna eat plant-based meat.
Yeah, as it just becomes more accessible, I think more people will try it, and if it's good, people will keep eating it just like anything else. And especially like if you have something like a real burger that isn't always the healthiest for you, if you have an alternative that has like proven history of being healthier for you, I think people will gravitate towards that over time, even if it is a little uncomfortable for them at first.
Plant-based meats aren't inherently more healthy, especially right now. They're starting it, but Beyond Meat's only on like the version 2 of their burger. You know, so each year they're gonna come up with new recipes and new ways to do things, and that innovation is gonna lead to a healthier product. So really, when you discuss investing in plant-based meats, you have to look at the future. You have to look at what it could be, because that's really where it's headed.
Yeah, these definitely aren't companies that you expect to have amazing business models and to be like super profitable yet, because if you think about it, their best products probably haven't even came out yet. Like the stuff that's really going to get the majority of people into plant-based foods, or at least like feel comfortable eating them, probably hasn't even came out yet.
And the numbers of vegetarians, especially in the U.S., is steadily compounding. So where, you know, a long time ago it was only 1%, then it was 3%, and then it's closing in on 7%. You know, so eventually those numbers could keep snowballing, and then you're looking at like a multi-trillion-dollar industry, which is worth more than the current meat industry too, because you can make it way more profitable. So let's talk about some of the big players in this industry.
So obviously we've got Tattooed Chef, like I mentioned earlier, who I'm pretty heavily invested into, and later on in this video I'll get into why I'm so bullish on them. But what are some other companies that you're looking into, or ones that you're into?
So there's Beyond Meat, which is a stock that I've followed since its IPO, and it was the first plant-based meat stock that you could invest in. So it had a lot of attention around it then. There's a brand called Oatly, which is traded on the Canadian stock exchanges. There's a Good Foods brand. And then the other major competitor that's not publicly traded is Impossible Foods.
Yeah, I was actually out at a burger restaurant last night, and they had Impossible Burgers on the menu. So definitely are getting into more established restaurants and places that people go out to. So like, I have a friend who actually records here all the time. Shout out to Shipe. But he is a huge plant-based food guy. He's a vegetarian. But yeah, I see him get like Impossible Burgers or stuff like that all the time when I'm at the studio with him. So
yeah, in most major cities, most of the restaurants will have that option, whether it's a Beyond Burger or an Impossible Burger, and even a lot of the chains. And that's the most important part, sort of, is those brands linking with the major chains to really get brand awareness, to where it's a household name of like, oh, that's a Beyond Chicken Nugget, or like, that's the Impossible Whopper. Because Impossible has Burger King, Beyond Meat was in Hardee's, and they're dealing with McDonald's. They're in every KFC for a limited time, and they've had different partnerships. But that's sort of the main goal, is who can land McDonald's, or like who can be everywhere.
And I've heard the testing for like McDonald's has gone really well. And then like 10 years ago, you go back, or even like 5 years ago, it's like you can't really put a name to any brand in the vegan or vegetarian food like companies, or at least I couldn't. It was like you would just hear about like little weird stuff that somebody made at home, and
like a green veggie burger.
Yeah,
like I feel like that's like the 90s mentality.
Like tofu,
right? And it was like, if you want to eat plant-based, you have to sacrifice taste.
Yeah,
which just isn't true anymore, and that's one of the big steps. And each year, as new products and new technology innovates, you know, it's only going to get better.
And like he was saying earlier, like that's when the growth of the stock will come. And that's part of why I've gotten so heavy into Tattooed Chef, is because I feel like they just keep innovating. So they started off as like a frozen foods company, and they have like 30 to like 35 SKUs, I think, as far as frozen foods go. But they're getting into other products now, which is like snack foods and nutritional bars and all kinds of different sort of products that people eat like regularly. It's not just like frozen food. I feel like that's kind of hindered the vegan food companies, is it's always just frozen food. And for me, like, frozen meals like aren't always the most tasty stuff anyways, so
it seems really processed. Like,
yeah,
that's a big critique that even vegetarians or vegans have on it, is that even though they don't want to eat real meat, they don't really want to eat some processed stuff that they consider not natural too. Because brands like Impossible, it is a GMO and it does contain soy, whereas Beyond Meat is not a GMO and it doesn't contain soy, which is sort of a misconception people have, is that they all contain soy, or they all are gluten, or, you know, they all are, you know, bad.
I saw the Tattooed Chef was catching some flack. I was just like looking at Twitter just to see tweets about it, and people were kind of getting mad because they have like milk in some of their products, like real dairy. So,
well, the brands like Impossible and Beyond, one of the biggest struggles they have is, even if they're in Burger King, they're not using a separate grill. So
yeah,
it's not really vegan. It's just plant-based.
Yeah.
So there's like a borderline where they're not after the vegans or vegetarians because they know that that's going to be too hard to get. So they're after this new group called flexitarians, which are really the people that normally eat a normal Whopper. They just want to try something new. And that's what Burger King found, is that the majority, like 70 to 90% of the people that order the Impossible Whopper are flexitarians. Like, they're not vegetarians. They eat meat. They just also wanted to try this for whatever the reason may be.
That was like I had never really had vegetarian food until I had tried some of the Tattooed Chef products. And like I was telling him, like the pizza, I tried one of the pizzas and like that just was really not for me. But I tried one of their cauliflower mac and cheese dishes, which I wouldn't say like would replace like your typical mac and cheese, but one, it was really filling, and two, I thought the taste was really good. And obviously, like, it's just cauliflower, so like it does feel a lot healthier, and I felt a lot lighter after I ate it, and just I had a good feeling after I ate it, which you don't always have with real mac and cheese. So that was kind of like just a nice insight of why people would prefer this for like every meal, because it just felt a lot cleaner. I'm not really sure how to explain it other than that.
Yeah.
But
also, like you touched on, right now they've established the burgers, but Beyond Meat is in KFC's right now with chicken nuggets. So as they can get chicken and pork and every type of meat, there's a lot of room for these companies to expand, because right now they're only doing beef burgers and sausage. But you know, once they branch into chicken wings and chicken nuggets and, you know, everything that they can do, like turkey and all these things, that the CEO of Beyond Meat, Ethan Brown, he's talked about how that is his goal. You know, like he wants to be everywhere, and he wants to be in all these different, you know, revenue streams.
that's another reason of why I like Tattooed Chef so much, is because like they have so many products and they keep innovating, having new products. So even if you don't like one of them, you might like another one. Like I didn't like the pizza, but I like the mac and cheese. They've got like an acai bowl or Aussie bowl. I'm not sure how you say
I
that.
don't know either.
But I want to try that. It looks really good. But that's like not even something that would have meat in it or anything like that. So they've got a lot of products, and they haven't released this officially, but I saw some behind the scenes images of some products they have coming out where they were just like normal vegetables and stuff. And for someone who doesn't really like frozen vegetables, it will be interesting to see like if they're higher quality or like just taste better, because it seems like Tattooed Chef takes the sourcing of their products really, really serious. So I'm hoping to see if those more like traditional style products, like if you just buy like a bag of corn from them, if it'll be better than like a company like Bird Eyes, a frozen food company my dad always buys stuff from, but I can't stand that stuff. So it'll be interesting to see like them getting into foods that are already established, to see how those do.
Yeah, and that's the big question too, because all the stocks are valued out in the future. What if Tyson Foods makes a pivot? You know, or like what if, you know, General Foods or any of the big players in the market, they could switch to take over plant-based too, and kind of use their money to make it harder for all these solely vegetarian stocks.
It's like Ford making electric vehicles
It's
versus
really
Tesla.
Yeah, it really is similar to Tesla, because you're betting that they're going to take over the world, but it's not for sure.
Yeah, I definitely don't think the majority of people will be just plant-based anytime soon, but I do think there's a heavy chance that people will start to incorporate it into their diets, especially as it becomes promoted as more healthy and just more tasty, and as people get exposed to it.
There are a lot of reasons to do it, and Beyond Meat does a good job of emphasizing that the environmental issues, you know, there are a lot of people that will switch to plant-based just for environmental reasons.
Yeah, we haven't even really like touched on that. I feel
Yeah.
like that's like the biggest thing for a lot of people, is to just eat something that's more sustainable and doesn't relate to like animal cruelty or have anything to do with that. So these options definitely appeal to those people.
All right, so let's talk about investing in these companies. There's an ETF that tracks vegan stocks, which has Oatly, Good Foods, Beyond Meat, and all that in it. But let's just talk about the stock Beyond Meat for a second, since that's the main publicly traded plant-based stock. Right now, it's valued at like $60. Its high was like $360. So it's down like 80% from its all-time high.
It's at the slaughterhouse.
Yeah, yeah, it's at the slaughterhouse. So yeah, Beyond Meat's down 50% in the last couple months too, but its valuation is still over $4 billion. And how much do you think they're making?
I have no idea. I guarantee it's a lot less than that.
They're losing money.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're losing like 50 million
Oh, I
a
figured
year more.
I low-key would have figured they would have been profitable. I guess I should probably.
Well, it has to do with growth because
Yeah.
they would be profitable if they weren't trying to expand so much.
That's the part with like Tattooed Chef where it's like they're not that close to profitable. They probably won't be profitable till like maybe 2023, maybe even 2024. But at this point, it's like I don't even really care because they're just getting the brand out there so much. And really, like Beyond Meat and stuff is just helping spread not only brand awareness for Beyond Meat, but just brand awareness for vegan and plant-based foods.
It helps the whole economy of plant-based meats.
Obviously, there's multiple people that coexist, like in the regular meat industry. So I do think there'll be a couple big dog companies when it comes to the vegan food companies or plant-based food companies, whatever you want to call them. I don't think there'll be like just Beyond Meat or just one victor, but I do think some of the companies probably won't make it too, which is like every other business. But
it's going to be who can weather the storm before everybody turns to them, you know. We know that Beyond Meat stock is down a ton from its all-time high and 50% in the last couple months. Should you buy it?
I have been thinking about it, but I also need to do more research. It's one of those stocks that I've always heard about it, and I've always been somewhat interested into it, but I've never done the proper research to feel comfortable like putting my money into it. So yeah, since it's been like down 60% or whatever from its like 52-week high, it's definitely gotten pretty appealing and definitely been on my watch list. There's a couple stocks like that. Activision was one before they got bought by Microsoft, and Farfetch is on that list. But yeah, definitely creeping on my watch list. I just really need to take the time to do that deep dive into their earnings reports and their last conference calls and all that.
Exactly. And it's just hard that the criticisms are still ringing true, even though the stock's down. Is it worth $4 billion right now?
That's part of the reason why I've gotten into Tattooed Chef. Is not that I think Beyond Meat is a bad company or anything along those lines. I just think Tattooed Chef is I caught it a lot earlier on. So I think it has a little bit more room for growth to reach that Beyond Meat level. And then I think the whole market as a whole just has so much more room to grow. So I think the growth for it over the next like 5-10 years is kind of untapped. So it'll be interesting to see where it all goes.
We know Beyond Meat's market cap is $4 billion. Tyson Foods, which is the main monopoly in the meat industry, they're valued at around $40 billion. So does Beyond Meat have anywhere close to 1/10 of the business that Tyson does? Right now, no.
Yeah.
You know, it's not even close at all. But if they can land McDonald's and they land in Pizza Hut nationwide, which they've almost already done, they could be looking at a big change.
That's one thing that I haven't heard from Tattooed Chef that I do hope they do, is because the person who makes all the meals, Sarah Galetti's, like prides herself as like a real chef and stuff. So it would be awesome to see them. Maybe I feel like Cheesecake Factory would be like a cool person for them to get in with, kind of like the Italy-based stuff. But
Cheesecake Factory carries the Impossible Burger.
Yeah. Oh, that's dope. Yeah, so there might be some competition issues there with Impossible and Tattooed Chef, but I think that's another thing too that's cool about Tattooed Chef, since they make other products, is they'll be able to like coexist with a burger. Like maybe you get like an Impossible Burger, but then you get a side of Tattooed Chef mac and cheese.
It doesn't have to be one or the other.
Yeah. I think people kind of have that misconception when it comes to like plant-based food companies, that there's only going to be one.
But it's worth mentioning too, if the market does collapse and the economy goes bad, it's going to be harder for people to pay for like a premium product, or like to pay an extra $4 for an Impossible Burger instead of just going for a normal burger.
Yeah.
You know, like it's gonna come down to it.
I'm glad you mentioned that. I really hope that's one thing that these companies will be able to do is lower their costs, because it seems like, obviously, like you were saying, you are paying a premium when you buy plant-based, and especially if the food doesn't taste as good, like you're gonna have a hard time getting people to buy plant-based options when they're more expensive and don't taste as well. But
And I know in Beyond Meat's earning calls, they talk about that a lot, of how they know that they're overpriced, but they had room to do it. And if they wanted to cut their prices, they could. They could cut it over half and still be profitable. But, you know, like if you can make more, you might as well, you know?
yeah.
So they're still finding that price point.
Yeah, Tattooed Chef is similar. It seems like they're still trying to find their like true price points for like their bowls and whatever items.
It'd be interesting though, because technically plant-based meats, like we said, could be the next Tesla. You know, it could go 100x by the time, like, you know, like our kids are investing or something. You know, like it could be one of the biggest companies ever if the trend shifted in their favor.
I thought what you said earlier was really interesting about how plant-based foods aren't like traditional foods; they're almost more of like technology based, which is definitely true.
That's why I think it's unstoppable.
Yeah.
Because each year it's going to innovate, you know, and it's going to innovate like technology does, which is like at a compound interest type way. So who knows?
Yeah, I definitely think the market will just keep on growing, and I think Tattooed Chef, Beyond Meat, Impossible Burger, probably very good food company too, will all do really well. Oatly, I don't know much about Oatly, but what I've heard about them is good. So
right, and they're probably players we don't even know about that will end up being
Facts.
in the future. You know?
Yeah, like I mean, how many drink companies are still coming out? Like the Celsius brand, or like
Prime.
yeah, or like
There's
White
all kinds
Claw. Like there's just stuff that comes out and kills it, even though you think innovation has to be done. Like, what can people innovate when it comes to food and drinks? Like, seems like everything that's would have been done has already done by now, but that's the thing, it hasn't. So it'd be interesting to see what people come up with, because you really can't expect it.
All right, so final verdict: should you invest in plant-based meat stocks?
I think if you're a high growth investor, I think it's a good sector to have in your portfolio, because just the growth that the market is going to have. It's similar to like gaming. I think like if you go back and look at gaming, people were like
Skeptical.
people were like, what? You're not going to do that. Like, it's never going to grow to where it has today. So
it takes a generation. You know, it takes like that next generation to be more open to it, and then for their kids are just going to be raised on it. You know?
Yep, and if you look at gaming, like it's still like growing incredibly fast. That's why like I'm into Corsair and brands like that. But yeah, once more people started like getting adapted to it, it'll just become the norm for most people. Like if, like he was saying, the vegetarian or vegan population is growing a lot, especially in the U.S. If your parents are vegetarian and vegan, you probably will be too. That's just kind of how it goes. You eat what your parents do. I don't see like people who grew up vegetarian just like sneaking out to eat a burger. If they did, they'd probably get really sick, because I'm pretty sure that's what happens. But I don't know. What's your outlook on plant-based stocks?
I'm bullish on it. Beyond Meat's been one of the biggest investments I've had, and I've always been a fan. I actually wrote a book on the subject called "Your Kids' Kids Won't Eat Meat." It's on Audible, but I do believe that the innovation of the technology is going to be what wins it over, because as we know, the population is going to keep growing. You know, we're going to keep running out of space. Global warming might cause whatever. So when you can find a cheaper, more efficient, tastier, and healthier way to do something, people are going to do it. You know, yeah. It could be the cure to world hunger. You know, like who really knows what the actual future of it is.
Could be. And another thing that I wanted to mention that isn't so much like about plant-based foods, is just more stock related, is I think right now it might be a better like short-term play. Obviously, we're both long-term investors, but if you're looking for the short term, I would kind of recommend going with Beyond Meat because they've already hit those highs. So I feel like a company recovering is usually more likely than like a tattooed chef has never really hit like those highs. So if you're looking for like a swing trade or like a short term play, I've even thought about kind of doing that, just throwing some money in Beyond Meat because I think like within the next year it probably will recover, maybe not all the way back to like 300, but there's no way it's going to stay down like 60% the whole rest of 2022.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of room for growth for sure.
But yeah, that's pretty much our take on plant-based foods. Leave your comments down below. It'd be interesting to hear what you guys have to say. Obviously, maybe we have like somewhat of a biased outlook into it because we own these stocks and we're kind of like doing all this research into plant-based companies. So maybe to us it looks like people are more involved with it than we actually think. But yeah, would love to hear your guys' opinions. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you made it to this point, we really appreciate it. And if you guys are looking to get a free stock with Robinhood or Webull, I've got a Robinhood link down below, and he's got his Webull link down below. So definitely make sure to go check those out. And like we said earlier, thank you guys so much for watching. We will catch you later.
Peace.